Hey Truth Seekers, welcome back, Zach here. In this video, I want to add some historical context to Pope Francis's recent visit to the United States of America. About a month ago, I did a video on the visit of Abdul Baha, the leader of the Baha'i faith, who came to the United States of America in 1912 at a major transitional period. This was a year before the establishment of the Federal Reserve, and shortly after that, the entrance into World War I. Of course, World War I was underway in other parts of the world. The United States joined 2 years later. I think right now we're at a very similar moment in world history. The signs of another major war on the horizon are evidenced throughout military actions in Ukraine, the Asias, and other parts of the world. Just recently, Japan ended pacifism, which had been in place since the end of World War II. Of course, pacifism is making war illegal. That is no longer the law of the land in Japan. Pacifism has come to an end in recent weeks. Anyhow, the United States of America turned 239 years old. This is a very important number to the Zionists. The Jewish holy book is the Torah, which has Jewish gematria of 239. It was a Zionist Jew who funded the American Revolutionary War on behalf of the Americans, Haim Solomon. I have a video on him. Anyhow, though, this number 239, it was relevant to Pope Francis this year. It was relevant to Abdul Baha more than 100 years ago. Notice that he was here for exactly 239 days in 1912, and his name in Jewish gematria sums to 239. Also, 239 is the 52nd prime number, and notice how his name is 52 in simple English gematria. Earlier this year, there was a train wreck in Philadelphia, Truth Seeker, on May 12, 2015, a date with 52 numerology. That train wreck happened at 9:23 p.m., a reshuffling of these numbers. The phrase train wreck has gematria of 122, just like Pope Francis. With regards to Abdul Baha, what's interesting about him is that he was born May 23rd, 1844. May 23rd is the 144th day of the year. There's a relationship between 144 and 44. If you write out 44, it sums to 144. Also notice that the name Jorge Bergoglio, the birth name of the current Pope, Pope Francis, has a connection to 44 through gematria. Also, making matters more interesting, Abdul Baha died at the age of 77. Very spiritual number, important number to the Zionists. The United States of America is located on the 77th meridian, the American meridian. Anyway, he died on a date with 79 numerology, like the word murder. He also died on the 332nd day of the year, the reflection of 233. I bring that up because in Fibonacci numbers, the numbers count from 89 to 144 to 233. Possibly a coincidence, possibly not. These people are very much numerologists. They very much do things by the numbers. Perfect proof of this is when Pope Francis got off the plane when he arrived in the United States. He stepped off at 4:04 p.m. local time. The name Pope Francis in Jewish gematria sums to 404, just like the chosen one. A fellow truth seeker pointed out how 4 past 4 sums to 923. Just like the date of much focus connected to Pope Francis where he spoke in Washington, D.C. Notice that on September 23rd, Pope Francis took the White House lawn at 9:23 a.m. 9:23 a.m. Living by the numbers. I'll also point out the connection between Washington, D.C., the federal government, and the Catholic Church. Think about Catholic Church CC33. C is the third letter. It was the Catholic Church that paid for Christopher Columbus to sail to the Americas. CC33, Christopher Columbus. We celebrate Christopher Columbus Day in October, the only month with 33 gematria. It is a federal holiday. The word federal has gematria of 33. The federal government is headquartered in Washington, D.C., where Pope Francis took the White House lawn at 9:23 on September 23rd. Washington, D.C. has gematria of 137. I'll just show you this. Washington, D.C. equals 137, and 137 is the 33rd prime number, another 33 coding. While Pope Francis was here, one of the biggest news stories was the resignation of John Boehner, who is a Republican and who is part of the reason Pope Francis is here. He invited Pope Francis to speak at Congress, which he did on September 24th. Notice that elephant, the symbol of the Republicans, has gematria of 239, this number of great focus. John Boehner was the leader of the 114th Congress, a Republican. The name John Boehner has gematria of 114. I did a video on John Boehner's resignation. I showed how it was coded by the numbers. Throughout the time he's been in office, he has often coded the numbers 35 and 53 into the things he's done. He announced his resignation 35 days before the resignation date, October 30th, and 53 days before his birthday, which he said was originally his planned date for resigning. And 35 and 53 are important to the Catholic Church. The word Catholic equals 35. The word religion equals 53. JFK is the only Catholic president to date. He was the 35th president. Both the names Pope Francis and John F. Kennedy have Pythagorean gematria of 59. A not so nice number, which we'll get to in just a moment. Also, with regards to this 239 story, earlier this year in July, a military report was declassified saying that the U.S. military had conducted 239 biological warfare tests from the 50s to the 70s in the United States of America. The first test was done in San Francisco. The biological agents were released in the fog by the Golden Gate Bridge, according to the reporting. Golden Gate has Jewish gematria of 239. In the Jewish faith, the Messiah is said to return through the Golden Gate for the Jewish faith. Just think about how the first of 239 tests were released there. We're talking about something destructive. With regards to destructive, the worst thing that happened in the time Pope Francis was here was this wreck in Seattle, very suspicious, where people on a boat, or not a boat, excuse me, a charter bus, were killed. Supposedly 4 people died on the Aurora Bridge, killed by a duck tours vehicle. Very suspicious. I used to live by this bridge. I'm up in Seattle. Very narrow bridge. Most people drive very slow on it. It's hard to imagine how a wreck like this could happen. But what's interesting is Bel Air, where the people died, has gematria of 59. The kill number in Jewish gematria, a number connected to Pope Francis and John F. Kennedy. In the reporting, they said 47 people died. This is interesting because Seattle's on the 47th parallel. The Space Needle, the main attraction here, has a rotating restaurant that does a full rotation every 47 minutes. 47, a special number in gematria. Words such as obey and authority have gematria of 47, as does Christian, as does Republican. Seattle's on the 47th parallel, the 122nd meridian. Again, Pope Francis equals 122. Just like train wreck, earlier this year there was the train wreck that foreshadowed Pope Francis's visit to the United States. Lots of videos on that if you're interested. When Pope Francis arrived in the country, he circled Tick Bite, North Carolina 3 times. Supposedly there was a delay in D.C., but I really think this is just more ritual stuff. Notice that Tick has this gematria of 122 like Pope Francis. Also, Bite, gematria of 36. Pope Francis was born in the year 36. It's been 36 years since 1979, the year of the first Pope visit to the U.S. What's interesting about 36 is when you sum 1 through 36, it totals 666, 666. Tick Bite has simple English gematria of 79, like the year the first Pope visited. Also, Pope Francis departed on September 27th, the Jesuit order's birthday. He's the first Jesuit Pope. Jesuit has these 84 connections, just like Pope Francis has a life number of 84. I show you this just to show you how all of this history is so well synced up by numerology and rigged by the numbers. While Pope Francis was here, it was headline after headline with coded numerology. Here's just a couple of them. Here's a story of a family, the Walker family, traveling 13,000 miles through 13 countries. Parents 41 and 39, kids aged 3 to 12. With regards to 13,000 miles, 13 countries, 41 is the 13th prime number, the age of the oldest parent. 39 is 13 times 3. These people like triplets. Kids age 3 to 12, 12 has a numerology of 3. So this is like saying 3 to 3, kind of like 33, Catholic Church. Spending all this time with the federal government. They were known as the Walker family, which has gematria of 70, just like Walker in simple English gematria, just like Francis. Another story that stood out was the story of an 88-year-old traveling 8 miles to see the Pope. This reminded me of the Philadelphia train wreck where it was Brandon Bostian, the engineer who wrecked the train. Lots of connections to the Pope. Drop that 0. You have another 59 like Pope Francis, like John F. Kennedy. Oh, true secrets, just too much. They said this 88-year-old was named Chambers, a name with 33 gematria. When the Pope was in Philadelphia, he spoke in front of Independence Hall. The main headline was Hot Topics for Pope Skip, gematria of 119, incredible number to the Zionists. Also 137, we've been talking about that. Its connection to Washington, D.C., the 33rd prime number. The article itself had the word superficial quest for unity emphasized, words the Pope said. Notice that this phrase has gematria of 122, like Pope Francis, and also 131, which is interesting because he made these remarks in front of Independence Hall, which in simple English gematria sums to 131. As I often say, the headlines code numbers that are relevant to the story. This is what it is to live under Masonic Zionist rule. I'm not saying Abdul Baha was a bad guy. I don't know that he was, but he very well might have been an agent named by the numbers. It seems awfully strange that he would have all these connections to Pope Francis, and Pope Francis comes to the country all these years later on a similar spiritual tour, or at least it's purported that way. But what I want people to take away is how we live in this world of planned events by numerology. This is what I want people to wake up to. All these people who go before us are actor agents, complicit in the conspiracy. I don't know how people are fooled by the Catholic Church. They claim to represent Christianity and Jesus, but Jesus was about being meager and humble. The Vatican and Catholicism is about arrogance and showing off wealth. It's not just the Vatican. Go to any Catholic school in the nation. They're flashy, they're big. The parents in the parking lot drive very nice cars. Most of the women picking up their children have boob jobs. And no, these aren't, stereotypes. This is reality. Go to Catholic schools throughout the nation and tell me I'm wrong. There's probably a Catholic woman right now watching, blushing. It's time to take the blindfold off. There's a world of deceivers out there. World of people manipulating us. Pope Francis wants to come ask us to be better people while, we're oppressed and programmed with tyranny and nonsense and nastiness every day. Pope Francis wants to talk about climate change but not call out the chemical spraying of the skies, while there's rainbows overhead in New York from chemical spray that the media says are signs of God smiling down on the Pope. We gotta wake up, people. If you haven't seen my video on the rainbows and the Pope, you gotta check that one out. Alright, until next time.